Hello, happy May the 4th. Thinking back to my youth, I used to play a lot of different Star Wars games, and this Decipher card game was one of the top ones. So I thought I'd share a few sights as to how it changed over the years, and some favorite dark side characters, which how they developed as the game went on, basically. So we've got Darth Vader, the man himself. When the game first released, this is only a partial timeline, but it gives some of the main products. Premiere, the first release, Darth Vader was a big chase card. He was the strongest character in the game. Ability 6, power 6. He could draw destiny on his own. He had immunity to attrition less than 5. He could hold down a sight all by himself. Adding 1 to each battle destiny is a decent little bonus, and it can get even better depending on what he's got system. This card was never surpassed, as far as Vaders go, as the best pilot. If you were looking to play Vader as a pilot on his custom tie or something else, especially on his custom tie, this one was unsurpassed. You could add a total of 4 to power and 3 to maneuver. Very strong for that, but it's a very niche case. But still, overall, usually just holding down a sight, giving you an ability backstop for Sense and Alter. A lot of the early decks ran like 4 to 6 copies of this. So everybody wanted these. They were in very high demand. Shortly after, with the premiere release, they came out with a promotional set. And in this, they provided a basic Vader, which released, within the same launch period, basically. Dumbed down version, no immunity to attrition, power 4, ability 6 instead. Still useful in combat, still could give you Sense and Alter, backstop, but weaker stats, more expensive to deploy, less forfeit, and they gave him these weird abilities. Must deploy on Death Star. This was a common problem.
Is that facing the other way?
No.
You want it backwards? Okay.
Yes. Although you can't see the text anyway, but I thought it would be cooler because it's sort of back when people cared about Star Wars figures. This was a little bit of a history piece because you had the 300th figure. And now there's so many, I don't even know if they count anymore. Anyways. So that's annoying, but workable. You could deploy him onto the Death Star. I used to try to use this guy. He's not playable, really. Next, may not be deployed if 2 or more of opponent's unique characters are on the table. This is the real stinker because this guy costs so much. By the time you save up enough force to deploy him, usually your opponent's played 2 things, and you can't. If that one line was gone, this guy would be potentially playable. Still not great. The Luke that came in this same package was more playable because it had at least a positive ability and it was cheaper to start with. And there's a sight which makes Luke a little cheaper too. But the Vader, not so much. You can put a lightsaber on him. He's a warrior still, even though he's not a pilot. And then this flavorful downside. If in a losing battle, draw destiny. If destiny greater than 4, choke, lose 1 Imperial present. So if you're losing, he gets mad and kills your own folks. Very flavorful to the character in the first film and the later films. Well, the original trilogy. But not good for helping your team. So, yeah, nobody used this version of Vader. And this is how it sat for the first several years. This is 1995. First year of the game's release. Both of these. It took a while before they ever released another Vader. Special edition came out, you can see, 1998. So for the first 3 years, everybody wanted Darth Vader. Then you got some choice, because the special edition version was solid. No deployment restriction. Same stat line, 6/6 for power and ability. Same deploy, same forfeit. Same basic adds 3 to whatever he pilots, but when in battle may target an opponent's character and draw a destiny. And target choked, lost if destiny greater than ability. Still has the immunity to attrition. So in hand-to-hand combat, this guy had the extra bonus of being able to try to choke somebody as well as swing his lightsaber. Very handy, preferred for most cases where you're just putting him down to hold the sight with a lightsaber. But both were still playable perfectly fine. Around the same time, they came out with Enhanced Premiere. So this was a promotional Vader that was easier to get, sort of like the original Vader, except they did it right. This one, again, similar basic stats, 6'6", one less forfeit only, still adds 3 to anything he pilots. He has a permanent weapon. Darth Vader's lightsaber may target a character or creature for free, draw 2 destiny, target hit, and its forfeit equals 0 if total destiny greater than defense value, which is ability or armor or whatever the second stat is. It varies a little bit. We'll see later an example of that. So you can't put a lightsaber on this guy. So his built-in lightsaber is great for fighting, but you can't force drain with it. So it hasn't a drawback in that sense. But it's still an efficient card, no immunity to attrition, so it's easier to get rid of, and it was easy to get because you just bought one of the little packs that came with 4 packs of cards, 4 unlimited booster packs basically, plus you'd get this guy, and or one of the other characters with lightsaber. There was 6 of them you could get. Very usable. Not quite as strong as these two, generally not. If you're going to a tournament, you wanted to get these guys for your deck. But if you're just looking as a casual player to get a Vader, this guy was great. And much cheaper and easier to get a hold of. And then finally, this was 95, 98. In 2000, the final set of the original trilogy came out, Death Star 2, year 2000. And the highly anticipated set included the final form Vader from the last set that came out. And in Death Star 2, Vader finally became a leader in the text box there. He got an extra point of power. Deploy -2 to Executor, Death Star 2, or Endor. So on those places, cost the same as the original Vaders, but otherwise a little bit more expensive. Adds 3 to power of anything he pilots. When armed with a lightsaber, adds 2 to his defense value. So instead of having to beat a 6 to hit him, you had to beat an 8. Also has immune to uncontrollable fury. Very annoying card that people would put on your Vader to force him to fight, or you would lose force. And attrition less than 6. So an extra immunity point as well on the attrition. Adds 1 to defense value and 1 to each of his lightsaber weapon destiny draws. So basically, unless you draw a location, which is basically a critical 0, you're getting +2 to your total lightsaber weapon destiny every time you draw, because each draw gets +1. Very strong Vader. For dueling decks and things like that, became probably the more sought after version again. And really shows the power arc and power creep. Well, not power creep necessarily. I'd still say the 2 main versions are still perfectly usable. But yeah, it was very strong for what it did, for sure. So that's the progression they had for Darth Vader. I also like to go over another dark side favorite character, Boba Fett. Boba Fett didn't show up in Premiere. His first appearance was actually in the first anthology. This little thing came with the third anthology, and this box came with the second. So they did a little different series over time. About double this. I don't know. So the first Boba Fett you could get came with that anthology as a bonus card. Infamous bounty hunter, hired to help Jabba intimidate debtors and smugglers. So, adds 2 to power and 1 to maneuver of any starship he pilots. May deploy -1 as a react, so he could show up as a surprise if you got enough force active. To the same set as a gangster or smuggler. So he could surprise Han Solo, or he could support Jabba, or other gamblers or other gangsters or smugglers. When firing a weapon, any hit characters are forfeit 0, so that helps you get more points out of your battle resolution. May fly, land speed 3, so if there's a bunch of locations out, instead of just paying 1 to move a site, you could pay 1 and move up to 3 sites. That jetpack is handy, and he's got some immunity to attrition less than 3. Armor 5 means if you're trying to hit him, instead of using the 2 as the base to hit him with a weapon, you got to get through a 5. This eventually released as a regular card in the special edition set, but the anthology came out before, and this was a preview card. The next one to come out shortly after was in Cloud City. Cloud City opened the game up a lot as a set. Before that, you could battle on Tatooine. You could go to the Death Star or Yavin 4, but there wasn't as many good sites for both sides, so it didn't happen as much. When Hoth came out, it was good, but you needed a lot of Hoth cards. You needed vehicles because there was prone to Ice Storm. Darkseid couldn't deploy through the shield. Dagobah, you couldn't really deploy. The only place where you could really interact with the other side easily was on Tatooine. And then Cloud City came out, and Cloud City opened the door. It brought in Boba Fett, it brought in Lando Calrissian as new characters, new versions of Han and Leia, which before that, the only characters that had new versions was Luke, and he'd had a couple. But we got Boba Fett, and this Boba Fett, as you can see, has an extra power and ability over the preview version. A little bit more forfeit. Adds 3 to the power of any starship he pilots, and on Slave 2 gives maneuver and adds a destiny if not able to otherwise. So this is the best one for space, generally speaking. And may, when escorting a captive is forfeit plus 5. Still got the flying land speed and immunity to attrition less than 3. So this one was generally a little bit preferred just because of the higher stats, mainly. The odd time you'd want him in a starship too, but... Then, shortly after, at the same time the Vader with lightsaber came out, you got Boba Fett with blaster rifle, the same one of those enhanced premier packs. And same basic stat line as the Cloud City Boba Fett, 1 less forfeit. Adds 1 battle destiny if with Han or Jabba, specifically. So you play him against your opponent's Han or supporting Jabba, and you get an extra battle destiny, very strong. And he's got a blaster rifle, so you can target for free. And it's destiny plus 1, and it'll turn his forfeit to 0. Not bad, but not as strong generally as the Vader, and a little less popular. Generally, depending what you were looking for, some people like to play him too. But these two were then the more popular ones still, even though this one came out officially at the same time. It was just more of a niche case, I find.
Sorry
in my experience.
Child screaming in the background. Brinley, it's bedtime.
Yeah, that happens.
So.
And then the final version that they came out with for Boba Fett in this card. This game ran from 1995 to 2001. So 2000, when they released the Lord Vader, was the end of the original trilogy set. Then they came out in 2001 and just scrambled to get a bunch of episode 1 stuff out before they lost the license, basically. And on here you can see they came out with, where is it? Reflections. That was the first Reflection set. There were no new cards in it, but they came out with later Reflections 2, Reflections 3. They added new cards to those. Reflections 2 had expanded universe characters and stuff, mainly. Reflections 3, they came out with some new versions of different favorite characters and things. New cards to help smooth out some rules, at least that was the theory. And one of them was new Boba Fett. So this one still has armor 5. You see the stats went up. He's got more. Let's compare him to the Cloud City. 7 power. Same cost. Adds 3 to power of anything it pilots. Adds 1 battle destiny if with your alien or Imperial. That's basically any other Darkseid character for the most part. Or adds 2 battle destiny if with your Bounty Hunter or Vader. That's even easier to set up than Jabba the Hutt. And adding 2 on top of, if you've got Vader, you're already drawing at least 1 destiny. So say you got him with this guy, who adds 1 to each of your weapon destiny or battle destiny draws. You're adding 3 battle destiny. Yeah, it gets crazy pretty quick. To try to balance this really powered up version, and his immunity nutrition went up to 5. They added an upkeep. This was something unique to some of the new powered up cards they added in Reflections 3. So upkeeps in Magic the Gathering have been around since Alpha, but they just came in near the end in the Star Wars game. And so basically for this one, at the end of the turn, you had to use 2 force, so you had to keep extra force up to do that, or restock it into your deck and lose 2, or it dies. So you got options. It's also got a higher destiny number than any of these had. They're all 1s, so there you got a 3 as well. So yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Very strong, very much for a hit and run strategy. You're not going to use this to just sit and hold the site. You're going to plunk it down with your Vader or someone else and just get a hard hitting attack or 2 in and try and do some damage. So that was the series progression for Boba Fett, from where he showed up in Special Edition in Episode 4
You can go to bed if you want, Thomas.
through Empire Strikes Back.
Thought you might be more interested in this.
And that's the progression for some of these favorite Star Wars characters. I find this very interesting to look at. I haven't seen a whole lot of discussion on it online as to which one you're going to want for which deck, but they're flavorful. They're
What do you want to watch then?
fairly strong cards, and they're just a lot of fun. So I thought I'd just share some of my thoughts on that and how things changed over the course with the game. In particular, these characters. If you're interested, I could go through something similar for some of the light side characters. I'm not sure I have all of them like I have with these, but it could be an interesting exercise if anybody's interested. In any case, for those of you classic Star Wars fans out there, I hope you have a great May the 4th, and have a good day, and may the Force be with you.